See? Yep, there we go. Okay, so we're starting with recording. It looks like we have most people on. I know there were a couple of supervisors who couldn't attend today, so they sent providers to present in their place. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me pull up our presentation for today. Okay. I have two screens, so I'm seeing two different things. Are you just seeing the presentation? Yes, no?
I see presentation and the people on the right.
Okay, perfect. With the two screens, I see the presentation and I also see it in presenter mode. So I was making sure you didn't see it in presenter.
Yes, we can see it in presenter mode. We can see your.
You can see the notes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we see the next slide is what we see.
Yeah, let me stop share. Interesting. I don't really want it to be on both. Anyone know how to turn it off, the dual screen? So it's not like that. How's that? Did that change at all?
That makes it really big.
Okay, so you just see the presentation.
Don't see all of one slide.
Yeah, it's cutting off part of the slide.
Yeah, it's like zoomed in. It was fine with presenter mode. It just showed the next slide. It's not distracting, so you can just go with that.
It's really weird though, because it just, like on mine, it looks totally normal. So now it's cut off?
Yeah.
All right, well, we'll go with presenter then, I guess. All right, we'll go with that. Okay. So kind of the usual, I know for some of you, it shows sometimes a phone number or partial name. So if you could just input your first and last name, we're going to just try to take roll. So into the chat, if you could put your first and last name, how it appears in the participant list, if it's different for some reason, and just program name. If you have number, great, but I know a lot of people forget what number their program is. So just putting program name so that Lisa can keep track of who all is here today. And then that way we make sure that we have an accurate record for attendance. All right, and obviously feel free to mute yourself when you're not speaking. You're welcome to show your face or hide your face, whatever you feel comfortable with. I know it's a long day. And if you're calling in, be sure that your participant ID, you have that when you're prompted so that it comes to the right meeting. And then if you choose to rename, you can. I'm pretty sure everybody at this point knows how to do Zoom, so we won't spend too much time on that. And like I said, you're welcome. We know it's a long day. You're welcome to move around, stretch. If you need to deal with kids or animals or anything like that, take a quick break. Just maybe indicate if you've stepped away so we don't call on you unexpectedly. And if you need anything, Lisa is available via email or phone. If you're having trouble connecting in, or if there are any challenges getting your presentation up, things like that, just let us know. All right, so we're going to start today with just some background on the PDSA that we've been focusing on the last 5 months, so father engagement. We're going to go through some of the core measures, so things that we measured across the entire Learning Collaborative, all of the agencies. Then we'll turn and do final presentations. So we'll do about half of them in the morning. We'll take a break. Then right before lunch, we'll do the remaining presentations on father engagement. We'll then take an hour break for lunch. When we get back, we'll switch to developmental monitoring and promotion. So we'll be finalizing our work with father engagement and moving on to child development. We'll spend a little bit of time talking through some of the topics related to the key drivers diagram, the SMART aim that we have for the Learning Collaborative, kind of review PDSA and the whole process and kind of what we're aiming to look at for this round. And then we'll do breakout rooms for an hour where you will be with your agency to talk about what you want to do for your next PDSA. During that time, your analysts will be floating through the breakout rooms to help you. David, Bard, and I will also be floating around the different sessions. And we will have Dr. Bonnie McBride and Seth Kastner, who were presenting last month on the Learn the Signs Act early material. They will also be floating around the breakout room. So if people have questions about the material and how they might use them, Dr. McBride and Seth will be available to answer those questions as well. We'll then take a break. And then after that, right before we wrap up, we'll have you share your PDSA plan. So just kind of a 10-minute overview of your SMART aim, if you put together your change theory diagram, any measures you're thinking of using, and just kind of general plan. So kind of a brief overview of what you're planning to do this next round. And then we'll finish with a little wrap up, and that will be the day. So we'll probably get out around 4:30. We'll try to get stick as close to that as possible. We may be able to wrap up a little bit early as well. All right, any questions before I jump into actual material? Okay. So we had several core measures that were measured across the Learning Collaborative. So these were data points that we collected from every agency, and they were focused on two different themes. The first theme, which is kind of highlighted in the gray, is family engagement. So looking at how many families were seen each month, did we reach total capacity, what was our retention like over several months? And then we also had outcome measures that were focused on father engagement. So these are in kind of that orange color. And so that was more focused on how many families had fathers completing visits, the percentage of successful outgoing father referrals. So were we getting dads referred to community agencies? How many primary caregivers did we have that were fathers? And the main one that we focused on for this round was looking at our SMART aim measure. So looking at father engagement and seeing what that father engagement measure looked like after 2 months and after 4 months of the Learning Collaborative. So I'm going to go through some of the data that we have today to just show kind of where we are after about 1.5 years of focusing on father engagement. So we'll start first with family engagement and then move into the father engagement measures. Okay, and I know that these graphs are always a little overwhelming, so I really want you to focus on that thick gray line. That's the trend line. That's saying across all these programs, here's the average, and here's kind of the general trend we're seeing. And what this graph shows is if you look at around 2018, there's been an upward tick in reaching our visit goals ever since about 2018. And that trend continued even in 2020 and 2021, which is incredibly impressive, particularly given the pandemic and the challenges faced by all the programs in the last, I guess it's been about 18 months now. So we can see that right now the trend line is around 65% or so reaching that visit goal. So if you have a specific amount of visits your program's trying to have in a given month, you're reaching about 65% of that goal on average. And that was for PAT. If we look at Safe Care, there's been a slight dip recently. Again, that could easily be pandemic related and not altogether surprising. And that's hovering around the 50% mark. So reaching about 50% of the completed goals. In terms of how many visits that are scheduled actually end up being completed, that completion rate for PAT has remained steady really since we've been tracking it. So you look all the way back to before 2016 to now, it really hovers around that 75% completion rate. So out of all the visits that are scheduled, about 75 of them actually turn into completed visits. And for Safe Care, we see that there was a dip around 2017, but it's been going up steadily and right now is hovering just under 80%. So again, out of all the visits that are scheduled, about 80% of them do turn into completed visits. So across both programs, that's fantastic. All right, now we have 3 graphs on the same page. I know it's a lot. So again, this is trend lines looking at if we look at a family that started, if we track them 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months later, are they still engaged in the program? And so what we see for PAT, the top left one is 1 month. We see that at 1 month out, over 75% of families are still engaged in the program. At 3 months out, we're still around that 75% mark. And even by 6 months, we're just under that 75% mark. So even 6 months out, almost 75% of families are still engaged in services, which is a fantastic retention rate. For Safe Care, the trends are a little bit different. So we see that at 1 month, we are above that 75% mark in terms of retention. By 3 months, it's a little bit below 75. And then by 6 months, it's hovering around the 50% mark. So about 50% of families that start 6 months later are still engaged in the program. All right, I'm going to move on to father engagement, and please feel free at any point if you have questions or you want to interject, please feel free to do so. This is the core measure that we use to assess father engagement. So first we define father engagement, and as you're all probably familiar with, we define this rather broadly. We wanted to include biological father figures, foster, adoptive, stepfather, grandfather, really anyone that was identified by that family as serving a father figure role. So the first thing we did was establish, is there a father figure even present in the family? And we asked these series of questions to get at whether there was a father figure in the home. And then every other month, we ask that you follow up with families about how often fathers were engaging in specific child rearing activities. So we asked how often the father figure is spending time with the child, changing the child's diaper, helping to manage bathroom routines, helping with mealtime activities, using the mom's desired discipline practice, providing comfort to the child, caring for the child by himself without supervision, and helping the child to learn new things. And we asked, does this never happen, rarely happen, sometimes, often, or always? First, when it comes to just trying to get data on dads, as you all know, since you're the ones trying to get the data, it was challenging. There were, in some cases, only a few father figures that were available in a given program, and trying to get data across visits was a challenge. So what we see is that if we look at how many visits per month did we have father engagement data, it's relatively low. It's about a handful of visits each month where we're getting data on father engagement. And if we look at the percent of visits, the good thing was this increased over time. So as the Learning Collaborative went on, we were getting more and more data on fathers, which was great. And we ended up with about 15% of the visits where we were getting father engagement data. So to remind you, as a Learning Collaborative, our goal was to see if collective participation in a father engagement Learning Collaborative significantly increased the average father involvement ratings based on that core measure I just showed you among all clients with an identified father figure by June of this year. So really, we didn't have a set goal in terms of how high we wanted to increase that. We were just looking to see, is there a significant difference from the beginning to the end in father engagement? Here's where we ended. And so I'm just going to show you first kind of average scores on all the items, and then we'll look at how that changed over time. So for each of the items that we asked parents, we asked how often the father figure spends time, bathroom routines, meal times. What we're seeing across the board is that mothers generally reported high involvement from fathers. And this mean that we're showing here for each of these items did increase slightly over time, and we'll look at some data to support that. But overall, pretty high levels of engagement were reported by dad, regardless of the activity in question. So here are the other 4 items, and you can see the most commonly reported response was always that the father figure was doing a lot of these behaviors by himself on a regular basis. So first for PAT, we look to see, well, after baseline, if we assess them again 2 months later and 4 months later, what do dad engagement scores look like? And what we see is a slight increase for most programs at the 2 and 4 month mark. So you can see here some programs showing increases, those are in that teal color, and then some programs reporting some decreases in father engagement at the 2 month and the 4 month. Another way that we looked at this is to look at change in these scores, and the blue dash line is the average across all of the PAT programs. And what we see is both at 2 months and at 4 months, there is a slight increase in how much fathers are involved in these daily activities. And the change is for PAT programs, it's bigger at the 4 month. So there's actually a greater increase in father engagement 4 months out relative to 2 months. For safe care, we see a slightly different trend. In this case, both of them were increasing as well. We just see greater increase at 2 months relative to 4 months across those programs. Okay, are there any questions about the data I just showed, the figures, any feedback before we go on? All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to review the PDSAs, and we're going to talk about key findings and lessons learned. And to do that, we're going to have each of the individual programs present. And so I put the order here that we're anticipating doing today. I think I saw that everybody who is slated to present is on the call. But if for some reason someone's not on the call yet, we can switch around the order. But what we'll do is we'll do those final presentations now, starting with OKCPS, and then we'll move through generally about 15-20 minutes per program. So I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over, I believe, Yolanda. Yolanda, are you on and ready to present?
I think I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right. Yeah, for some reason my audio comes and goes, so I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So let me go ahead and see if I can share this screen, and I think this is it. Can you see it?
Yeah, looks great.
Good. Well, we kind of resume our learning collaborative session with father engagement until after we stop and we did something different the last time. So we pretty much resume what we left off, I think it was like a couple years ago. So we are Oklahoma City Public Schools, Parents as Teachers program, and just, oops, sorry. A little bit overview about our agency, our department. We have Parents as Teachers. We also have Early Birds and Smart Start in the schools. We collaborated with Smart Start Central Oklahoma. We also have collaboration with Early Head Start, and we support teachers up to second grade, pre-K to second grade. So Parents as Teachers, we finally moved to a new location. I think it was last year during the pandemic. And we are located now at Gatewood. I think this is going to be called Learning Center. We are here in Gatewood. We used to be Gatewood Elementary School. We have been in home visiting for more than 20 years. I have been in here for 21. So, and the program, we have two different groups. We both Parents as Teachers, but the program that we have is MIECHV or MIECHV, and we have a program director, supervisors, and 7 parent educators. So this time, like I said, it was kind of picked up whatever we left off in our last father engagement, and we were trying to improve relationship with fathers and to try to enhance parenting skills. We start this new cycle in February this year in 2021. And our SMART aim was increase of participation at least once a week and above, and a father involvement scale, it's kind of long, at 50% by June 30th. For the families that were introduced to the activities, to reduce the percentage of never to 0%. So the measures that we have for this one, the outcome, average level of completion of the activity page, a father involvement scale. The process measures that we were going to do is to take the parent educators were going to be providing activities pages for fathers, give it to the mom, they shared activities with the fathers, and we were going to enter in ETO how many times the father has completed the activity with the child, and the scale was never, at least once a week, few times a week of every day. And we also want to continue, and we incorporated this like a couple years ago, also not only the activities, but also incorporated the reading. If the father were reading books to children, maybe they were not able to do the activity, but at least they can go ahead and read with children. And it was, again, the same measurement, never, at least once a week, a few times a week of every day. Okay, sorry. The disruptors measured no father figure in the home. Parent educators does not bring the activity. Mothers don't share the activities with fathers. Fathers refuse to do the activity. Fathers don't complete the activity with children, or father figure is not able to read. I think when we did this last time, we were like, okay, maybe what happened if the father cannot read? So that was something that we want to incorporate it in this cycle. And so that's kind of the change. Theory diagram, increased father-child interaction. We got the welcome letters to fathers, provide activities, mother shared activity pages, or the activities in most of the cases, we were delivering materials to the homes. Father complete activity, and the final was improve relationship with fathers. Who was going to put this plan in place? The parent educators and the supervisor. Parent educators were going to take the welcome letter, and again, we made a minor changes in the letter, but it was pretty much explaining what we want to get this project. So fathers, of course, give it to the families that they have father figures in the home, and we enter in ETO. Well, we have in ETO a way to record all the measurement that we were talking before, and of course, this was going to be virtually, because when we start this cycle, we still were doing all the visits were virtually. And since I think starting April or May, we start visiting a few families face to face. And of course, the time was February 1st to June 30th this year. And program supervisor prepared the welcome letters to fathers. We did it in English and Spanish. And we have one person in here in the staff that speak Vietnamese. So she, of course, explained it to the families that speak Vietnamese language, try to explain it also, what was this project about it. The parent educators distribute the letters to families, and in a monthly basis, activities were provided to families. And of course, collect information in ETO once a month. And again, this is the example of what was the letter that we sent them to the fathers. And this is some of the examples we use for activity pages. We use what we have in our PAT curriculum. And this is just an example of some of the activities that we were sharing with the families. So this is the fun part, and maybe I need Aaron to say something if I get stuck. But what we were trying, and since we started this cycle, is, like I said, try to reduce the percentage of never. And during all this process, and I can see ups and downs about the participation. And again, our business can go, 1 week can go very well, and the next week goes down. It's like a roller coaster. So same thing is like in here, but we can see that, of course, like I said, sometimes there was more participation, but in time, we can see the reduce of the number of the percentage of never. And so that's what is in the graph on top, and in the graph in the yes, in the bottom is the reading when we collect information about reading. And one of the things that we noticed, even of course, we kind of increase the participation that at least once a week the fathers were reading. And yeah, we didn't see any gray well in the last portion, but we saw a decrease of participation. I don't know what was that about it, if they got tired or, but we can see less participant. Even if we got the 0, the participation was, it decreased. And let me see. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think this is pretty much what we were talking before. That so the activity and the reading was a few times a week. And again, we don't see the gray color in the last, I would say the last 3 columns in the graphs. And same thing again with this one. Figure highlights that the PDSA progress, the number of never response decrease, and the number of at least once a week response increase across both reading and activity. This is something that we also wanted to put in the presentation, is the mothers have shared the activities with father most like every time. And this one is like families that have father, has a father figure or no father figure. So the measured interpretation outcomes, the number of never response or father figure involvement did decrease through the administration of this PDSA. As visit count increased, the amount of never response decreased. Data shows that most of the mothers have shared activities with father or father figure. Disruptors data showed at the end of the cycle of this project, the number of participants decreased. The lessons that we learn, that even if we have a father figure identified in the family, we still have some obstacles that prevent the father-child interaction as often we anticipated. And I think we had the same pretty much outcome the last time that we did this. Less father participation in the activities in the loss of implementation of this project. And some father, after working with parents and teachers activity, began establishing learning activities and reading routines periodically with their children. More participation of father figures in the virtual and home visits. And that's something that even when we run our reports for the final, our final report, we can see more fathers be in the home with children when we were doing the activities. And also increase the number of father participation in a group connection that we did it on a Saturday morning. So in the month of June, we wanted to go ahead and do it was virtual group connection on a Saturday morning, about 11 o'clock. And it was about father, to try to get fathers engaged and come to our meeting. But we kind of open it up because we didn't want to say, well, this is only for fathers. So we want to make clear to our families that this was for, again, everybody was welcome, even if there was no a father in the home. Our surprise is that we always have maybe 1, 2 fathers in the group connections, except when it's graduation. But this time we have, I think there were 5. So, I mean, not too many still, but it was just good to see that we have more participation. So that's something that maybe we can start working on to get maybe more Saturday, if we able to do it, of course, or in the evenings. It was kind of the side note, but we have a couple of families. Mom had to go to work, and so they sign up for the group connection, and it's like, well, here is my husband, and he's gonna take over. I had to go, so it was very good to see. And the fathers, matter of fact, we did. The activity that we did, it was a hands-on, and it was sand. We had those keychains, so we were filling with the sand and have, some texture, and we read a book, and it was very fun to see. I wish I could take a picture, but we couldn't, but it was very good to see it. So the act, based on the data collected and the different experiences that we have with families, maybe this is not appropriate for all the families with a father figure identified, but we would we will adapt this project as a supplement to support child development, enhance parenting skills, and of course improve father-child interactions. And if we still have some families that the fathers want to continue to do, we can still delivering materials and what we do. And some educators, I mean, they do something different, but maybe put packages together. One of the things that we noticed it is, and I think I shared this before, they like all the topics they can be, I mean, school readiness. So they want to learn letters and colors, and that's something that the fathers look like they're very interested to see. Oh, this is going to be good when my child goes to school. And of course, try to increase number of group connections in the evenings on a Saturday. And this is a picture that sometimes it's better to see a picture. One of the families that participated, they sent these, and they were play with Play-Doh. And one of the things they said, and I have different quotes, but that this dad, he never goes to sleep if didn't share any, or reading to the child or do some activity with their child. So, and this is all the contacts for myself and my team. And thank you so much.
Great, thank you so much, Yolanda. That was wonderful. I love that picture at the end and the quote. That really helps make it more personal and relevant. Any questions or feedback or comments for Yolanda? All right. How about, I was wondering, was there any activity that was the most successful with dads that they tended to want to do the most, or that was the most popular?
I believe a couple of educators, they were, when it was springtime, they have some seeds and put it in a container so it can see it grow. And apparently that was very popular. I have also feedback from educators, like putting packages with letters of maybe letter of the week, letter of the month, and or doing like matching. I think like a puzzle. I think it was like a matching pictures. Yes, that's what it is. And so the educators were doing taking pictures, laminated, and so they can be doing some games with matching and learning vocabulary. I think it was another thing.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. We are going to turn.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we're going to turn to Parent Promise now. I think I saw Shauna. Are you available?
Okay, I'm gonna have to try to figure something out. Be like, hello, everyone.
Is the whole agency over there?
Everybody but Courtney, but she's logged on, so here we are. And
Hello.
I pulled up my. Ooh.
I recognize that room. I was in it last week.
Ah. Okay, now I'm lost. Okay, share screen. All right, you know I'm gonna blow through this, but how do I make this a slideshow?
We can see it. So if you just scroll down for each slide, it might work. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. All right. Let me find a chair so I'm not squatting the whole time.
That's fair.
All right, so we'll just do this. All right, so we are Parent Promise, as you guys all know. Everyone can hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so all this I've probably told you guys 8 times, but we were founded in 1988. We became Prevent Child Abuse Oklahoma in 2001, and just have a big long name about Prevent Child Abuse. We changed that to Parent Promise. It just sounds nicer. And since then, we've served more than 6,000 families, and that number's actually increased, but I didn't get that changed in time. We currently have 3 home visitation models. So Parents as Teachers is our largest, and we have 4 OKC parent educators and 3.5 MIECHV. Our exchange parent aid, we serve up to age 12 with that program, and we have 2 parent aides, and then we reinstated Healthy Families America a couple of years ago, and we have 3 family support specialists. And so if we are all completely full, we can serve 225 families in Oklahoma County, and then with our other 2 home visitation models, we can kind of dip into Cleveland and Canadian County as well. Which we get a lot of Yukon and Mustang. Here's my beautiful father engagement slide. This isn't the right one. Hold on. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys.
That's all right. We'll pause. It is beautiful, though. I love the colors.
This is the right one.
It's Friday. You know, it's a day-long training, so.
Right. Yeah, it's been a week for us for sure. Okay. Let's try again. One day I'll have my life together. All right. So that was right. Okay. Here we go. All right, so we titled it Daddy Reached Me, and it was all about father-child interaction. So we were looking to improve relationships with fathers by encouraging them to read more to their children. This intervention encouraged father-child interaction. We chose it because it could be easily implemented while conducting virtual home visits, and we could still do the questionnaires and everything regardless of the father's work schedule and if he's available for the visit. Our goal was to increase the proportion of fathers that read to their children multiple times a week by 10% between February 2021 and the end of June. So our measures, our outcome measure is having mom answer how often dad is reading to the children each week. Our process measure was the parent educators providing families with a handout about benefits of fathers reading to their children and providing books bi-weekly to make sure they had that home library built. And then our disruptor measure, we were looking at literacy issues or language barriers and lack of books available in the home. Oh, sorry guys. So here's our change theory diagram. And like I said, with our measures, we tried to provide dad-friendly books and reading materials. I tried to make sure to order bilingual books and just different books that might be more dad-friendly. And then, yeah, we chose the language barrier and the scheduling thing. I think that explains that, right?
Yeah, good job. Good job.
I can work this computer. Okay, so our plan. Quit clicking things, Sean. Okay, so our who is that our parent educators will work with enrolled families, particularly families with fathers and father figures involved. Our what is that the parent educators will ask what types of reading materials dad would prefer, and then they would select appropriate books and materials to give or lend to the families depending on our availability. And then parent educators would ask mom to report how many times a week dad read to baby. This takes place during home visits, virtual or in person, with any enrolled clients with father figure. And then again, February through June is when we track this. Our do is that the parent educators gave families with fathers a handout that told them the benefits of fathers reading to their children, asking mom what types of things they would prefer to read and distribute their preference when we had that available in the office. They would also ask how often FOB was reading each week at every home visits and collect the satisfaction survey data bi-monthly. We did observe an increase in the amount of times fathers were reading to their children, so we were excited about that. And when we first started, the satisfaction surveys weren't getting administered, and there's a typo, but and then we have families without father figures, so that was kind of an issue with that. And then I'll start on these, and oh, no. And Andrew, if I'm saying anything wrong, just let me know. So our outcome,
Fine so far.
okay. So our outcome measure, we did see an increase. This shows, this was as of 6/30 of 2021. And we did have a 20% increase in the amount of times a week dad read to baby. So we were excited about that. Our outcome measures is the one on the left is just showing the father figures that read at least twice a week. And you can see we kind of jumped around, but overall it's a steady kind of increase. Is that right, Andrew?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly it. Jumps around a lot, but is generally trending upwards.
Okay. And then, what's that next one? I'm sorry.
The next one is very similar to the group on the left, except that we've broken the clients into two different groups based on whether or not they had been given a book in the previous week. So that blue line represents anyone who the previous visit was provided a book. And the pink line is anyone who was not previously provided a book on their last visit. And over time, while both groups do trend upwards, it looks like that if those families that were given a book 1 week, the next week, that proportion of families that have read at least twice a week has crept upwards and generally outperforms those who are not provided a book. So both groups are trending upwards, but one more so, and that seems to be related to whether or not they've been provided books.
Perfect. Well said, Andrew. Thank you. And then our process measure, this was kind of jumpy too. So not a lot of the handouts were given out originally. So there's not a lot of data with that. And then on the right side, it's just showing that if they've gotten books again. Andrew, you could probably explain that better.
Oh, I mean, you're exactly right. Is within a given week, what proportion of families have been provided a book? This is just tracking that that process measure. And again, over time, more and more families, it's trending upwards. Over time, more and more families were being provided with books.
Okay. And then our disruptors really weren't a disruptor like we thought they might be. So the literacy issues weren't a problem. And part of that might be we were able to get some bilingual books. And yeah, it just didn't seem to be a disruptor in this. And then the lack of books, there were some times that did jump up, but overall, the lack of books wasn't an issue either. Okay. So our outcomes, we increased the proportion of fathers reading to their children by 20%. And that was 2 or more times a week, I believe. The process measure just shows that the fathers weren't receiving the handout as planned. And the disruptors we thought could be an issue didn't seem to factor in to why they aren't reading. Lessons learned. We are very happy to see an increase in the amount of times fathers and father figures are reading. So our overall conclusions is that our results exceeded our predictions. So we're happy about that. We believe by encouraging and educating fathers on the importance of reading to their children, really help them be more engaged with their children. And we will continue to encourage father and father figures to be involved in routines with their children by continuing to educate them on the benefits of reading. Still giving those handouts on some of the first visits when newly families enroll. And yeah. Any questions?
That's great. Thank you, Shauna. Any questions or comments, feedback for Shauna's group?
No questions, but this is David. I mean, that was an excellent presentation, excellent project. I think you should consider submitting that somewhere, like to a local conference. The findings are fascinating. And
Can I bring Andrew with me?
I'd be happy to know. Yeah, we would.
Yeah, road trip.
Thanks, David.
Let's do it.
That sounds great. And I was wondering, you mentioned, Shauna, that you tried to provide books that dads had a preference for. Oh, Shauna's walking away. Were there any specific ones that were the most common and things that people reported wanting the most, or is it kind of all over the map? Oh, we can't hear you. She's going back. Sorry to make you run back.
Much of my computer, I don't have a mouse. So, question again?
So I was wondering, you mentioned that you gave books based on dad's preference. Did you see any kind of patterns in what kind of books dads asked to have, or was it kind of just individual by, differences just within dads?
I think it was more just what, I really didn't track that, I'll be honest. That's something I could definitely ask our team, like how they kind of went about that. But like I said, I was able to order some books that kind of had more dad involvement in them too. So I'll check with them and kind of see what all they took and what seemed to work best.
All right, sounds good. Well, thank you for your presentation, and we'll do one more before we take a break. So we have Jade with us today. Dwan is out on a family matter, so Jade has kindly agreed to step in and give the presentation for North Care. So Jade, are you able to share, or if you need Lisa to, just let me know.
Nope, I think I got it.
Yeah, looks good.
Awesome. Give me just a second. Okay. Let me arrange these. Okay, awesome. So yes, we are Safe Care. We picked up with the Dad 2K Part 2 for this cycle. Still used our Safe Care model, and at the time we had 5 providers implementing this project. We were serving about 38 clients a month. So, of course, our primary driver was to increase father engagement in our services, and we started in February. We were going to tailor our services to be more adaptable for fathers into their schedule by using some technology and things a little differently. So, our goal was 20% of families with father figures. They were going to receive the Dad 2K curriculum and report improvement in co-parenting based on the moms' reports and our conversations with the moms. And I loved how you guys kind of put some samples in your previous presentations about some of the materials that you used. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Dad 2K, so I was going to kind of give just like a brief overview of what that was. So there's some YouTube videos where there's like a male role model, and it's kind of like a sports themed video. I think like basketball is what it was. And so they're super short. They're like 2.5 minutes or so, and they chunk them up kind of to go with our Safe Care, our parent-child interaction curriculum. So there'll be like an introduction and then kind of like an overview of what our training session would have been, or just whatever we would have talked about in that session. The dad would review it in like a 2-minute video. It was just super straightforward and to the point, and we had some interesting feedback about them. So I can give you a little interview or insight about that later. We had some good feedback on that. So alrighty, so our outcome measure was to track if the mother is reporting improvement in co-parenting by using this little scale. And so we would ask this and then put in the data every week. So we would ask how involved they were in co-parenting and ask the mom to rate 1 through 5 if they were not at all, very little, somewhat involved, mostly involved, or very involved. So yeah, and then we were going to have the number of families that have a father figure and the mother's most recent report of the father figure's involvement with co-parenting, and if that was greater than the first evaluation. And then the number of families that have a father figure was our denominator. So overall process measures, we emailed the Dad 2K videos to the family. So for our numerator on this one, we had the number of families that had a father figure, and the home visitor emailed, like I said, the Dad 2K video to the family over the number of families that had a father figure. And then our disruptor measure, so the father figure was unavailable to participate in the visit sometimes. And so then we would try to, again, send those videos when we could. And I feel like this is a little I don't know, Helen, is this like saying the same thing a couple of times over? I didn't want to keep repeating our figures with the numerator and denominator. I wasn't sure.
That's fine. We can read the numerator and denominator. It's
Yeah.
basically how they were calculating out the disruptor. And
Yeah.
so it's fine to include, but you don't have to keep reading it.
Okay. And so here's our change theory diagram. We started with the Dad 2K curriculum, and then we would identify dads in the program, ask the mom and the dad if they would like to participate. Of course, sometimes there was no male role model or dad in the home to participate in this. So then we would email the video would watch the video in the session. So we tried a different couple of approaches. And then they would receive that education. We did run into some disruptors of dads just like not following through and watching if we didn't do it in the session with them, and not following through with watching it on their own. And then with that, the overall goal was to increase involvement from the dad in parenting. So this is our plan. So our staff, our providers implemented the change. Any father, while doing PCI in the home that has not already completed that, got the Dad 2K curriculum emailed to them. So they were provided to the families where there was a father willing to participate. And some portion of this was through telehealth during COVID, and then also back in the homes whenever we moved back to that. So that was kind of cool because the videos were definitely coming in handy when it came to some of that modeling and stuff, not just for the dads, I think, when we were doing telehealth services, but for the moms too. So they were pretty useful there. And then our do was to develop the Dad 2K outline, ask the moms if they would like to share the video with the dad, and then send it to the dad if he wanted that, and then ask follow-up questions at each session, or even offer to have like a phone follow-up visit with the dad in between sessions. If we were emailing that video outside of the session, we would call and follow up and before the next one and make sure dad was on board with everything that was covered and all of that good stuff. Okay, so this graph is showing improvement in father engagement, and we have our SMART aim at 20% of fathers showing improvement. And that is all that I can tell you about this graph. Andrew, if you would like to add more substance, please feel free.
Well, I think you've got it. Every one of those little dots is 1 week, and within a week we looked at took the number of families visited in that week. And we looked at, okay, if those families are visited, let's look at their engagement measure, and we're going to compare that measure to their first engagement measure. And if it's higher, we consider that a hit, otherwise it's a miss. And that proportion of hits to misses, that proportion of families showing an improvement to families not showing an improvement, is what's being graphed here on the y-axis. And over time, you see it stayed a little low for a while. I think that had to do with a number of technical problems that your program had
Yes.
during the cycle. We gradually did creep upwards, and I've actually got a slightly more updated version of this data that looks a little better than what you've got here on display, but it has crept upwards.
Nice.
Andrew, so the purple line is the target. We were hoping for 20%.
Yeah, hoping for 20% of fathers asked, in this case, it's 20% in a week, would show an improvement, show a father engagement measure that is greater than their first father engagement measure.
Okay. And any idea where the average actually fell?
Not off the top of my head. I suspect it was close to that. The version of the graph that I'm looking at right now on my own screen has a little bit more data in it, and I think the average would be it's doing a little better than what you would see in the slide on display, but I'm not sure of an exact number.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. And then we have this one here. So I know in some of our slides in a second, we'll cover kind of like mothers reporting super high involvement in the first round. And so we have a lot of that in the pink, I believe. And then after that, it seems to stay at mostly involved or very involved throughout. Is that a correct assumption or
Yes.
gathering? Cool. Alrighty. And then we have here the proportion of father or the emails that went out to the father figures in the home. It stayed pretty consistent, I think, and then kind of dips down here after May. But yeah, Andrew, anything else on this one?
No, I think about it. It was, again, we're just tracking the proportion of families that receive that video, and it, yeah, stayed about the same from 1 week to the next. Seemed to hover around.
And then father figures unavailable to participate in visits did go up towards the end, which was interesting. So, Okay, so overall, reflecting on one of them, not only twice, that dads reported an increase of knowledge that reflected a 20% increase. However, this could have been a result of the ceiling effect due to mothers reporting that high level of involvement from the start. Alrighty, so dads do not usually follow through with watching the video when emailed to them, and a large portion of them were unable to participate in visits, which led to more of a need for emailing the videos. So another unforeseen disruptor was a cyber attack on our agency that Andrew mentioned. So this caused some of our operations to kind of be put on a hold for a minute, to use our agency email to email the videos securely. Though they were on YouTube, dads could have possibly used YouTube, but again, we were just seeing that trend with that not following through if it wasn't for like the extra encouragement from the providers. Okay. So we talked about that, not anticipating that mothers would rate dad's involvement so high initially, which didn't lead for a lot of room for growth. So dads did not follow through again. And then one dad reported that the videos were too short actually for him. And so we found that interesting because we were hoping that they would be super easy to watch and to the point, but actually turned out that this one dad in particular would have preferred to have a little more substance to the videos. And then again, the additional technology challenges that we had with the cyber attack and all of that good stuff. We didn't have our laptops for a little bit, and yeah, it was a lot with that. I don't want to talk about it. It's bringing back all the stresses. Alrighty, and then here we have how we adapted. So definitely those videos were useful, like I was saying earlier, for telehealth situations so that we could use those for that modeling that we weren't able to do in the home. But we also found that these videos were pretty helpful in home visits as just like an extra tool whenever they might be needed, just for some people who might be like visual learners, more just extra modeling or something that they can refer to on their own. Just having them as an extra tool in general, we thought was pretty helpful. And then I guess that's it.
Thank you, Jade. I was wondering, did you get any feedback from dads about the lack of follow through? Did the providers talk to the dads in terms of, was it just, hard for them to get to watching the videos since they were pretty short and succinct? And I know Vaughn was really excited about trying to do the emails because she thought, well, we had such a hard time getting dads to attend the visits. This way we remove that barrier. And we don't have to rely on them being in the visit. We can get them at any time, no matter what, but then to have them not follow through with watching, I know she was frustrated with. So did you get any feedback as to what was maybe going on there with the father figures?
I actually had a dad that was like kind of in a similar situation while we were, because I had emailed the videos a couple times separately. Like we would go with because the dad was participating in the session, and then I would also email the videos additionally for him like afterwards as just like an extra follow through with him. But he seemed to prefer like having that more of like a conversation with me, especially since he was participating with the mom too. It was kind of like all of it. It was kind of more like a team effort. So I think that he just preferred more of the like conversation that came along with going through that coaching and stuff like in real time, because he kind of just like watched it. So he, I think, watched like one and then didn't watch the rest of them and just like preferred to have the sessions with me because it was a lot for them to set aside that one weekly meeting. And like, so being in the zone during that time is totally, they were there present. But I think after that, once our session is done, there's like, they're moving on. They've got like all these kids and I got to get to school and work and all this stuff. So, but they were really involved in the sessions with the dad in particular too. So I think he just preferred more of that like in-person feedback.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Any other questions, thoughts, comments for Jade? Thank you so much, Jade, for presenting in Dwan's absence. What I think we'll do now, so we're scheduled to take a little break. We're a little bit ahead of time. So why don't we come back? Let's see, make sure that clock's right. Yeah. So we'll come back actually at 10:30, if that's okay with everyone. We'll take about a 20-minute break and we'll come back at 10:30. and we'll do the rest of the final presentations, and then we'll take a break for lunch. So feel free to get up, take a break, and we'll check back in at 10:30 to resume the presentations. Thanks so much.